Okay, great. Well, it's 4:03. Call this meeting to order. Okay, roll call.
Megan Markle,
Here.
Randy Rickert, Randy Rickert.
I'm here.
Okay.
In the
Casey,
audio? Okay,
yeah, I
good.
can hear you. Kesey Banks,
Here.
Judy Brown,
Here.
and Samantha Cooley is absent. And so would we like to call for a vote of the new chair and vice chair?
Who would like to be, Casey, do you want to be chair again?
I'm willing. I was kind of wondering if Megan had any itch to do that.
You can keep doing it. I'm happy to be vice if no one wants to be vice. Like, I'm still happy to step in there.
So I nominate Casey Banks as chair.
I second.
All those in favor? I don't know who's leading the meeting. Go ahead.
All those in favor? Yay.
Sure.
Yay.
All right. Well, thank you for that. Who would like to serve as vice chair? Anyone want to express interest before we nominate someone? Okay.
Judy, Randy, would you guys like to do it? You want me to do it again? Like, doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, I'd like for you to do it again if you'd like to.
Sure. Judy, unless you're dying to step up.
I have other roles. Vice President, yeah.
Okay.
Well, then I nominate Megan as vice.
I'll second
I said
that.
that.
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That's unanimous.
Great.
Alrighty. I don't know where in the meeting minutes we should note this, but I should probably just name the fact that we didn't have a quorum for October, so we ended up not meeting for that scheduled session. Do we have any public comments for today?
We do not.
We never do. We never get the public comments. That's okay.
Do we have any comments from City Council?
Hmm.
No.
Did they ever respond to our letter?
I haven't received any correspondence
That's fine.
from any council member.
Okay.
I also hadn't received anything directly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, me neither.
So we have two meeting minutes then to approve. Were there any places in the July 22 meeting minutes that you noticed needed revision?
I noticed it, I don't know if it's the July one or the other one. I would just ask that my last name be spelled correctly. It's misspelled, at least in one of them. It should be Markel, not LE.
Okay, I see that in the roll call on the 22nd EL. Did you notice it in more than one place or just that one spot?
I don't know if it's in the other one as well, but if we're just doing the 22nd, that's right, because October we didn't meet. So yeah, that would be it.
Okay, anything else? All right, well, if you approve the meeting minutes with the spelling correction, raise your hand. Okay. And then the work section, meeting notes, any corrections to that one? My pronoun was his rather than hers in one spot, so that was my only note. I think that must have been on page 2 of those meeting notes somewhere. Yeah, the very bottom of the second page. Any other places for correction?
No.
Okay, well, if you approve the work session meeting minutes as amended, raise your hand. All right, done. Leanne, we got some documents related to Spark to review.
And before we shift gears, just along the lines of correction, I did catch that um, our next meeting is April 21st, I believe, and on this agenda, there's a carryover from the October agenda noting today's date rather than the April date. So we can get that corrected too. Yeah, so moving on to our topics of discussion, I know that previously there had been a request to look at that under the Articles of Incorporation pertaining to a dissolution clause. That attachment is part of your packet today. I know that there had also been previous questions about where our legal team was in their review. I can offer essentially a recap statement for the Affordable Housing Commission on that. So your preference, Chair, about how you would like to go through discussion on those items.
Well, I mean, the documents answered at least one of our, maybe two of our questions that we had. I noticed that there was details on the dissolution, that what would happen in the event that an organization that received a grant dissolved. So we have that answered now. And then our question of did they secure their 501c3 status? That's been met. So I don't know what other discussion items there are related to that, but if you want to summarize what the legal review maybe looked like for that, could be helpful.
Sure. So essentially sort of a recap from that last council meeting pertaining to the Spark award and contract outlined the request of the council required that Spark provide a succession plan to address continuation of its program in the event of the nonprofit ceasing their operations, and that's what we just referred to. Spark also sought legal counsel to be able to use grant funds for design and construction costs. So I know that legal is considering how to handle that. City Council requested verification of Spark's nonprofit status, which we also just discussed. And finally, City Council also requested verification of how Spark plans to satisfy rent and income limits applied to these housing projects. So with that, our legal team is beholden to review that and then draft a contract document that addresses those items. So we've been told that a timeline for presenting an agreement to City Council will likely be confirmed in the next few weeks. We don't have, I'm not aware of a date yet for which City Council meeting, but I'm happy to send out a general email to the group once that does get scheduled.
Leon, will there be regular updates? Has that been discussed from the Spark group to the city council on the progress of this, like on a regular basis, or is there a council member that has been assigned to, you know, kind of under the purview of making sure that this project continues to move forward?
That's an excellent question. I haven't heard any discussion about that. Honestly, I haven't heard much discussion about it in general. Um, so the question to our legal team has been out there for a while. I'm glad that they were able to give us the statement to share with y'all, but otherwise, I haven't heard where the Spark project members themselves are in their process.
Okay.
Do any of the other folks that we have granted money to, do they report at a certain time back to the city council? And do they have a timeline? Do they do that?
I've seen Habitat do that before. I have a memory from a couple years ago of the Habitat executive director giving a report on a grant. I think it was like on a 4-year cycle or something. So they had to report, I think, every year how much of their grants had been used and for what. Does that sound right of what's happening right now with other grants, Leanne?
I would say my experience is that Habitat does have regular interaction with city staff regarding their projects. I can share, that they have submitted for building permits. We've executed their grant agreement. They're going through the initial process to look at system development charges, and they've asked for a waiver for that, which is typical. So they're following their usual pattern with their projects and processes internal to the city. So I'm sure if council or the Affordable Housing Commission would benefit from a presentation of where they are in their project, that they would be happy to meet that request. They've done so in the past. I think it was last year at a citywide meeting that they gave a presentation in the what's the name of the center, the cultural center down near the library. So that's something that they typically do or will do upon request.
So it sounds like maybe the process in the past 5 or so years hasn't been standardized recipient to recipient.
I don't think so. I would say that probably where the CET funds are concerned, that this is not something the city has done before, and it was sunset shortly after the program began. So I'm not aware of a typical process for CET grant recipients for the city.
So, if please excuse me if I missed this in the reading, but have the funds been completely released to Spark in full or in part?
No,
They have not yet, in any way, shape, or form.
correct.
How does that work? I guess what's the process for that?
So the internal process is that the legal team has to draft a grant agreement that is consistent with our code and policies and the structure and the framework required by whichever grant that we have funds for award. And that's what's happened previously in previous rounds. So for the Yamhill County Housing Authority, we went through that process. We've gone now through this process with the Newburgh Area Habitat for Humanity. So the onus is now on the legal team to draft a grant document for Spark that is consistent with council requests that I read just a moment ago.
Okay.
I don't want to ask different award recipients different things. That doesn't feel fair. But I would love to see there be some kind of a standard expectation that maybe we hear progress updates maybe every 6 months from recipients until the award has been spent. Some organizations do that really quickly, some take several years. So the length of time couldn't be standard across all recipients, but it'd be nice if there was some kind of explicit expectation of receiving updates. It may not be a verbal presentation, but something in writing even, just until the funds have been used for the intended purpose, maybe. If that's some feedback you could give to the council.
Sure. My memory is jogged now. It was at one of those last council meetings when we were discussing CET that I believe it was Mark Irving from Yamhill County Housing Authority did give essentially a short presentation and status update at that council meeting. But certainly, I think that's a good notion to have you said written form, a status update for projects that are awarded funds.
Yeah. I don't know if 6 months is the right time marker, but
I think you could say at the completion of the project or completion of the funding, and or 6 months, whatever comes sooner or later.
yeah.
It's always nice to see the progress of your work. So we've given money to somebody. Let's see what happens. What's happening there?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Okay.
And especially if all of the funds are dispersed at once for Spark. I mean, yeah, like you don't have to write that in there, but that's just my thought. If you're going to give somebody almost $1 million or close to that, you kind of want to know how it's being spent along the way.
If this plays out how I'm assuming the money gets dispersed and then we either hear an update when they've purchased their land and spent the money, or we hear an update 6 months later just on their progress of their search for their property. And then I wouldn't expect to hear back from them after they've purchased and spent the money.
But when you think about the application, right? Like, I mean, they are required for 50 years to continue to do affordable housing.
I know.
How does that work, Leanne? Wouldn't they have to in perpetuity basically do it every 6 months or something that legal will put into the draft agreement?
Yes, so that is part of the document language that I've reviewed, that we are catching those markers, and there's provisions for monitoring within each
Right.
grant document. So we also have to be consistent with our code and what that requires. So that language definitely is present in those documents.
Okay, great.
Does anyone else have any other questions related to this item? Judy? Randy?
No, I don't have any questions. I think a comment that I like the idea, if possible, to have something a little more tied to a time frame, maybe a little more prescriptive. I like the idea of something every 6 months, even if there's no progress. An update saying that there's no progress yet is a great way to just continue to build trust with the community. Really,
Mhm.
I like that idea, or making that suggestion to them. I think it's important to report out. I don't know if 6 months is the right time frame. It seems realistic. I think every quarter, I think, is probably a little too much. and maybe once a year is not quite enough. So I think every 6 months would be something that I would be on board with. That's it. That's my only comment.
Thanks, Randy.
Yeah.
I agree with that. Yep. Great idea.
And I'm sure there's gonna have to be a little bit of flexibility on when it could make it into the packet and or be on the council's agenda, but if it's a roughly every 6 months, at least every 8 months, no more frequently than every 4 months, but somewhere in that window. Okay, are we ready to move to agenda item 6, staff updates, or anything else still for Spark Newburgh? All right, staff updates.
Yes, so the housing planning assistant grants. So I'm very happy to share with the group that we were awarded up to $100,000 from the state to carry out our housing capacity analysis. And we were partnered with Cascadia Partners. They're a consultant group that specializes in planning work and has had a great success working with cities in the state to meet these required goals. And so we've gone through scope of work revisions, and the city is in agreement with the consultant about all the work items that need to be captured in this project. And that scope of work has been turned loose to DLCD to review. And we're hopeful to get a contract for signatures soon. When I checked in with that group last week, and they said about 4 to 6 weeks. So we're hoping to get that kicked off soon, and I will be bringing that to council. We're gonna let council know that where we are in that process, and then likewise, we've written it into the scope of work that instead of essentially standing up a separate committee, as the language for this project requires that we have an advisory committee. We've asked that our planning commission and interested parties of the Affordable Housing Commission serve as that advisory body. So I'd like to kind of gauge interest if new members would like to join that effort. It would require participation in designated planning commission meetings. So we're trying to, just given city size and the number of staff that we have, we're trying to not have a separate meeting that everybody needs to try to accommodate and a whole separate group of folks, having to come together for this project. So we are going to try to have the option for virtual attendance whenever possible. There will be a few meetings in the course of the project where staff and our consultant team will be in person for those planning commission meetings, but we want to try to be as accommodating as possible. So could you perhaps give some feedback about any interest that y'all may have to participate in that?
How frequent are the meetings? Is it once a month? Is it more than that? Is it quarterly?
Yeah, I should have pulled up the scope of work here. It may be as much as once a month, but it's probably not quite. We're going to have project team meetings where key staff between the city and the consultant group are meeting probably more frequently, but we'll be mostly working within the scheduled planning commission meetings. We're not looking to hold additional planning commission meetings unless absolutely necessary. And then once we get towards the end and we have draft language for the city council to review and approve, then it'll kind of switch groups for that. But the advisory role will have ended by that time at the very end of the process. But I just wanted to give y'all the opportunity to participate. I know that y'all have expressed interest for this type of project in the past, and I certainly, would appreciate your input on the process.
I'm interested. We currently meet Tuesdays at 4. When does the planning commission usually meet?
Thursdays, and Faye, correct me if I'm wrong, did the meeting time get moved up from 7 to 6 now?
It's the first Thursday of the month, and it's now at 6:30.
Okay, I believe that was a compromise. Yeah, so a request has been made to amend the starting time from 7 to 6, and I believe they compromised on 6:30.
I would be interested as well, Leanne.
Okay.
Sorry, to clarify, are we giving like our personal interest, or is it the whole group does it or none of us does it?
As individuals, I don't, at least when I discussed it previously with our director, the understanding was that y'all could join. I don't think there is a requirement that the whole group has to join for that.
Okay.
But we may need to get I'm trying to think how to word this. Perhaps we need to get that in writing about who's going to be joining, some sort of indication of who from the Affordable Housing Commission is going to join the Planning Commission for those meetings. And obviously, there'll be other agenda items for those Planning Commission meetings, so you're not being asked to participate beyond the scope of that project.
Okay. Yeah, I was just curious if the request was for the Affordable Housing Commission members to do that, or if it was, well, these people are interested in housing. Are any of them interested in doing this?
Yeah. And I can get more clarification on kind of what that would look like. But at least it was my understanding that it might not be the whole Affordable Housing Commission, as
Judy, you
it's
mentioned
evolved.
some other roles. Is one of your other roles already on the Planning Commission or a different group?
No, I'm just on the budget committee, but
Budget.
as vice chair, but I would love to know more about like what the job title is and what what you would like out of it. If it's our personal opinions, what input do we need to, or is it just to bring it back to the affordable housing? I think just having a job description would be really helpful for me to say, yes, I want to help out or not. So I'm in the middle.
Sure. And as I mentioned, we've just recently firmed up the scope of work. So once we get a contract document in place and everything is solidified, I'll see if there's something that I can send to the group that gives you an idea of what sort of content we're going to be seeking the advisory committee's input on. But the goal of the project is to gather data that's specific to the housing need here in Newburgh. So we're hopeful that a lot of good and current information about our housing profile will be yielded from this effort. And then that goes into a housing production strategy and the next step required by the state. So that's essentially the action plan that comes out of all of this data. And then also, we'll have public outreach throughout the course of this project. So yeah, I will get you something so that you can look at what that structure is going to be and when your points of participation would be requested.
Thanks, Lan.
How often is this study? How often does this study happen? Because I remember the adoption of the last housing production strategy.
Yeah, so we have something that was worked on, but it wasn't formally adopted a couple of years ago. So, and I'm trying to remember how often this has to be done. And it's not coming to me, but we are trying to sync up with, like, we're on a biennium now, and we're also trying to sync up with state requirements for when these things are due and how to get the funding. So I think that's part of the reason that the earlier effort was, the adoption of it was postponed. But I can get more information likewise about new state requirements and how often that we have to do this. I believe it's every few years, but I don't want to misquote.
Any other questions related to the grant or the request to participate? Well, how about the updates to the city council rules?
This is just sort of a general, hey, they did this, and it may sort of affect us. It may not. I don't know if y'all have had a chance to cruise through there and look at everything, but Rachel's made an effort to try to just get everything and go step by step. That's our city reporter, and how mainly the city council body functions and how that's the order is going to go for each type of meeting. I might point out, let's see, on page 18 and 19, that content would pertain to us as we may consider, as well, the Affordable Housing Commission may consider giving public comment, whether it's in person or written, just kind of how that flow is supposed to go. And then there's some, again, the content is not as voluminous as for city council, but some other items in there about our committees and commissions and how
If
things
you
work.
like, Leanne, I have a little brief rundown of some of the changes and whatnot. So
Yeah.
in the chapter 1, and I wanted to point this out because we've had several questions about the quorum. So number 2 with the quorum, A, B, and C are the ones that are really pertinent to us. And then the other ones, oh, and then it goes on. So D also, but for that explains in more further detail exactly how it works and when we count and don't count. On number 3 for the presiding officer, really only number B is the one that pertains to us because it's the standing ad hoc committees. And in regards to the agenda, only B is the one that pertains to us, and it's like halfway through the paragraph. I don't know how if people actually read this super thoroughly. And also in number 5 agendas, E is goes over how committees, with if they wish to add items to agenda, the process it is to do that. Currently, we've been pretty kind of loose and just like, oh, you want to hear that? We'll throw it on, but there is a process. And then I also wanted to ask you for number 6, still under that same one for the order of business. They have a suggested order of business, but the committee is able to follow the one that they have established. Is everybody good with the way we have our order of business established? Or is there anything anyone would like to see change? You could email me too. I don't want to put anyone on the spot, especially if no one really looked at this.
I'm fine with it. If it works for everybody.
I'm good. I'm good. I like the way we do it.
Okay. So, and then in chapter 2, which is meeting time location, really the only thing that pertains to us on this one is number 2, which is just the board commissions and committees, which just says do it when you're assigned to do it. So, and then for attendance, that one is, I just wanted to point that out. Number C is really the only one that super pertains to us, but it clarifies the amount of meetings that you need to be present, and you know what will happen if you're not. So we don't typically have that issue. It really, and this 75% only pertains to members that don't go, and if you inform us, either Leanne or myself, that you are not able to attend a meeting, that is an excused absence. An unexcused absence is if we don't get any, no communication, and we reach out and there's still no communication. So
Thank you for clarifying that, because when our group only meets 4 times a year, you can get to 75% real fast.
yes, for sure. And then the other item on here that pertains to this one is in chapter 5. Which chapter 5 is a great rundown of how motions are done, and sometimes it's a bit overkill in some aspects for what this commission does, but it's a good review of it. But really what pertains specifically to the committee is under public comments. In the middle of number A1, it talks about how they clarified that for committees, if you are only to address public comments that pertain specifically to that committee. So someone can't come in here and say, hey, I have a public comment about the traffic. It's just horrible. And this committee is not, we'll have to, is to inform that person, I'm sorry, we can't address this here. You'll have to talk to this person or go to the other people, the council, city council or something like that. We are only able to address concerns or public comments that are specific to affordable housing. So that's a new clarification that was never out there before. And then also there is a public comment registration. We're trying to, this group's never had it, but we've had in the past, city council has, and we had an ad hoc committee where we had Zoom bombings, where we just had like tons of people in there to say something, and then they were just nasty and inappropriate. And so to reduce on that, they're requiring that all commissions and committees have it where you have a public comment registration, which we have online, and you can fill it out. You can fill it out the day of up till noon. That way, if we see someone's name in the as a guest, we know that we can promote them and that they do have something to say, and we know what it is. So I know that's never really been implemented in this this committee, just because as you mentioned earlier, there's usually not a whole lot of public comment. But even if we were to have someone who going forward, wanted to raise their hand and say something, we would require that documentation. And the other item that I just wanted to, if you look at this, I just kind of wanted to bring up is they have scripts in here. They have action guide scripts and whatnot. They're very specific to items that are not necessarily, you guys refer things to the city council. You don't necessarily, and you vote on that. And I wanted to ask if you guys wanted to have a script kind of like this, but made up for your type of hearing, or not hearing, but your type of voting that you do. So I just wanted to ask you guys if that would be helpful to you, which is if you had a chance to look at the scripts or even paid attention to them, if you would like something made up for this committee like that. And that's all I had.
It's probably not a bad thing to have. I don't know realistically that I would pull that up during a meeting and have it on hand. But would that be something useful to the rest of you or to future commission members?
Yeah, I think it could be useful, as long as it's not a tax on you, Faye, like to do it if it's like a one pager sort of thing, like since we're so limited in our scope, as you were saying. And perhaps it could be part of the agenda packet every time, just so it's just there. And we can refer to it in the agenda packets if that would make sense. If you guys think that makes sense.
I'm more than willing to do one for you guys. I think they are helpful, especially if, say, there are sometimes instances that the chair and the vice chair are gone, and then you have someone who's never done it before and they don't know what the process is.
Yeah.
I also have some confusion about sometimes this committee votes by roll call and sometimes we do just show of hands or verbal yay, nay. So what is the difference for us of when we use roll call votes versus something else?
So that's very interesting. So actually, since this came out, there was a few things that were just like, wait a minute. A lot of the voting that is done does not require a roll call vote. So it's really up to your preference. Usually the way it's been done in the past is that you do a all in favor, say aye type of thing. If it's for just the minutes, nothing, that's not basically anything that's I don't want to say not important, but that we deemed as just like a given, okay, hey, yeah, just minutes, everybody likes it, that's good. Then the items that are more like that are votes or going to council or recommendations, we have done as a roll call. We don't actually have to do it that way. It's up to the committee on if they want to continue to do it that way. And another item that we don't actually have to do is to approve the minutes. That is something else that you can continue to approve the minutes, but that's something else that came about, is that the minutes are not necessarily have to be approved as the consent agenda. So it's up to the committee. So that's another item I want to ask, if you guys wanted to continue to approve the minutes, and if you guys how you wanted to vote. Do you want to just go ahead and do the roll call? In this aspect, personally, my personal opinion is, since we are Zoom, for the more detrimental ones, like, let's say we're going to recommend this and we're trying to see if it goes forward because of how many, yay or nays we have. Because of the Zoom nature of it, it is easier for me to make sure I have the correct vote with a roll call. But it's completely up to you guys and what you feel you know, as a committee should want to do.
A roll call's fine with me. Makes it simpler to go fast.
I think the roll call is also helpful if someone needs to have their camera off, and the verbal vote doesn't work if we're all at the same time, just with the way the microphones and the Zoom. I can't actually tell. I don't think anyone can tell that yes, everyone spoke. So yeah, roll calls more accurate, at least.
It will keep it that way then. I mean, like I said, with the Zoom nature, it for me it's easier too. And then in regards to the minutes, do you want to continue to approve the minutes? It's completely up to you guys. Basically, you can do more than what's in the rules, just not less.
I like it just because it forces me to read it closely. And then if there's going to be a correction, it's only going to happen if we force ourselves to approve it. So I'm in favor of continuing to approve them.
I am as well.
I agree. I like it.
All right, then I guess we will just keep those two things in, and I will keep the agenda order the same, and everything's good. And if you guys have, if you're looking through the new rules and you've come across something that's really weird, you can always reach out. And if we don't have the answer, we will also, we can always contact our city recorder, Rachel, and she is very knowledgeable about all of this, more than I ever want to be. And she's great. And if we don't have the answer, she definitely will. If there's anything that is just like, that is really weird, and how does this pertain to us?
And thank you, Faye. You have a better idea than I do about what's different this time around. So, Faye articulated in the generalities that I was speaking to specifics. So, thank you for that. I think that's all for staff updates, and I just wanted to bring awareness around our time limit today. So we have 9 more minutes for this meeting today.
I don't have anything to bring up. Randy, Megan, or Judy, do you have anything to raise?
Go ahead.
I
I
don't.
don't. No.
I would just like to ask Leanne if you could give us a preview of what might be on the agenda for our April meeting, if anything, or is it more of a just kind of reviewing, getting staff updates?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Certainly anything that y'all would like to bring forward, we're happy to schedule that on the agenda. The general plan was along the lines of forming the group around the housing capacity analysis work, any updates that we had for Spark Awards. I suspect before the next meeting, though, I will be sending something out about potential advisory committee participation with the planning commission. So I'm going to talk to our director about what that would look like, and just make sure that y'all are informed. There is potential for this is sort of adjacent to our work, and I'm not sure the interest that this group has for workforce housing, but there was a separate workforce housing consortium that was aiming to do housing projects that would help facilitate, our local employers, and that, there's a property that's been sold for that purpose in town. So that is something that, I could potentially update the group on if there's interest in that. It's a higher income limit. It kind of starts at 80%, and I think it goes up to 130% of AMI. So it just kind of touches our demographic, just kind of barely. So it might not be something that y'all want to keep tabs on, but I'm certainly open to bringing to the director any other topics that you would like to discuss next our next meeting in April.
So we don't have any anticipated like novas for like the coming year, right? There's nothing on the agenda of like being able to award any grant money, you think, in 2026?
There's a small amount of money that could be that is under the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. I need to assess how much money is there and if there's any money that's going to go back, how that money is working, if it's being replenished in-house. So this was something that I asked a little while back. So I don't want to misquote, but I think it's a value that we could probably set up a NOFA for, similar to the one that I think Habitat got that. Was it last year or the year before? Under one of our, there's about half a dozen different either grant or loans under our Affordable Housing Trust Fund. So I believe that the amount that was dispersed last time was under a grant. There may be enough to do that again, but I need to check and make sure I have a good understanding of that amount. So I can certainly put that on the agenda for
That would
next
be
time.
great. Thank you for that update. And then I just wanted to confirm, is it, it's written as April 21st, some places, and April 28th in others, in those notes. Just want to confirm what date the next meeting is.
It's the fourth
It's-
fourth Tuesday, right?
Yeah, it's the 28th.
28th. Okay. Great. Thank you.
That solves one of my problems because I had a conflict on the 21st. Okay. Well, I think we've made it to the end, right? With a couple minutes to spare before the next conflict.
Thanks again, Leanne, for your work. Thank you for keeping us
Yeah.
on the right road.
Yep. And thank you,
Yes.
Faye, for keeping us on the right road as well with
Yeah.
all the administrative new rules and details. I love it.
Well, take care
pleasure.
until we meet again. Bye.
Bye, guys.
I call this meeting to adjournment. Bye.
Right.